What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Before I begin, I want to say thank you so much to each and every single one of you for helping this channel to become what it is. We're actually approaching 1,700 subs, everybody. Thank you so much for those that continue to support the channel. If you're new to the channel, if you like what you see and you enjoy the content, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe so this way we can reach that 1,700 mark. Smash that like button, comment in the comment section below, and hit the bell to receive notifications. If you want to help to support the channel financially, there's two ways to do that. Go to the links below. The first one is to my eBay store. I'm selling baseball cards and various other items. I am an LLC, and I do run a small business. So if you want to help support small businesses like mine, go check it out. Thank you so much to those that have done so already. And if you want to make a donation to the channel, click on the coffee link. Anything helps, folks. Thank you so much for those who have been supporting the channel through my coffee link and my eBay store. Thank you to my friends, family, neighbors, eBay customers, donors. I mean, you name it. You guys and gals are great. So with that being said, I wanted to make this video for so long. And now that I got these three here, we're going to talk about this for a little bit because I have some takes and some thoughts about this particular subject. So if you're a Transformers fan and a kid, you know, I grew up in the 80s. Let's start off with that. I'm an 80s kid. I grew up with Transformers, Voltron, G.I. Joe, GoBots, all that good stuff. But for me, my mainstay, my go-to was the Transformers. And you can obviously see what I have in front of me here. I got Bombshell, who's been upgraded. The current iteration of Cyclonus. I'm aware that SDCC has showed off a brand new Cyclonus. There's supposed to be another one coming out that's a little bit more cartoon correct, so to speak. But even though mine has yellowed, I don't mind having this figure at all. He's still a very, very good figure. And of course, the newly released Studio Series Skywarp. One of the big debates in Transformers fandom, and I guess in 80s fandom as well, is who is Cyclonus. So I saw the Transformers, the movie, as a kid. I've also seen it many times as an adult. I've seen multiple people talking about this here on YouTube. Who is Cyclonus? Now, I know there have been voice actors and people that were working on Transformers, the movie, and the TV series back in the 80s and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, there's been comic books with all this kind of stuff. I just want to give you my take on what I think. So who is he? Is he Bombshell or is he Skywarp? Neither and both. And why do I say that? Because it's a damn cartoon, and these are toys that are meant for kids. As an adult, I collect them as statues, more or less. Because we never had things like this as a kid. That's why many of us in the Transformers fandom collect these things, because a lot of us didn't have them as kids. And to see what they're capable of these days, to transform into these remarkable little mini statues as they are, and into their alt modes. Man, I wish I had these as a kid. But I really don't think the younger audience and the younger collectors really get why G1ers, old school G1ers, are so passionate about this sort of thing. You know, that's because we grew up with this. It was an innocent time. There was no politics, no pronouns, no war. You know, well, I mean, you want to talk about the Berlin Wall and all that kind of stuff. Fine, you want to throw that in there. You know, people want to get slick and try to corner you with that kind of stuff. I mean, the 80s had its fair share of issues, too. I'm not going to lie. You know, but it was a more innocent time. It harkens back to my childhood, where we didn't care about that kind of crap. And I think that's why modern-day adult collectors go after these, because we don't want to really care too much about these wars and tariffs and taxes and whose pronouns are correct and who's fat and who's gay and who's black and who's got a septum ring in their nose and who is a, you know, white supremacist and all this garbage. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. Even I'm giving up on it. You know, people who know me as being very political. These days, I've had enough. You know, it just gets to a point where it wears you down. And it's old. It really gets old. And that's why we collect these things. Not just to escape the real world. You know, it's because we can lose ourselves for a little bit, man. You know, when you're under stress, you know, maybe you had a hard day at work. You're having problems with the wife or the kids. Or maybe if you're a female, Maybe you're having problems with your husband or whatever it is. Maybe you're terminally ill. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why people collect, right? For me, it's for escapism. And this harkens back to my childhood. I love these things. It's got their issues, of course, with the tariffs. If you're trying to import things from overseas or from Canada or Mexico, you're going to end up paying tariffs. And apparently Trump has initiated more tariffs. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Isn't that precious? But, it's still, regardless and despite all that, it's nice to get away for a little bit and lose yourself. In the innocence of childhood. I'm not saying you have to be a man baby or a man child and go out into the sandbox and go pew, pew, pew with your plastic toys. I mean, I don't sit on my carpet having Transformers wars. That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? But every so often, to me, this is a Rubik's Cube. They're like the fidget spinners kids used to have a couple of years ago. That's what these are. They're just something to take your mind away from issues. I mean, recently you guys have been watching the stuff that I've been going through here on the channel over the past 2 years, 3 years. Death of my dad, being cheated on multiple times, being falsely arrested multiple times, having to go through the court system, basically being acquitted when I already knew. I was already innocent of a lot. I'm constantly under attack by people that just have personal issues with me, either because they're jealous or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't care. But with all that being said, that's why I collect. And when I watch Transformers the movie and I look at these 3 action figures, who is Cyclonus? Neither and both of these. Because first off, it's a kid's movie, it's a kid's cartoon, it's a kid's TV series, and technically these are kids' toys. So to me, I really don't care whether he's Bombshell or he's Skywarp. To me, he's Cyclonus, and that's it. I don't care which one of these two he is. You can pick and choose. See, back in the 80s, we used to have a thing called an imagination, which nobody uses anymore because everybody has to be politically correct, and using pronouns and all this other bullshit and DEI. It's nonsensical. We used to use our imaginations. We used to make up things, which kind of what pronouns are, by the way. But, if you're a kid, you can choose either one of these. Now, obviously, in the movie, you see Bombshell right in front of the camera like this. And then you see Skywarp in the background like this. And then all of a sudden you see Cyclonus the Warrior and his armada, I believe is a quote from the movie. Not verbatim, I don't think. I hope that's the exact quote. But that's what they said in the movie. But at the end of the day, you really have to look at this logically. So Transformers throughout its 4 seasons, all right, was replete with animation errors. Animation errors are ubiquitous for this particular cartoon back in the 80s. Must I remind you about Carnage and C Minor? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, what a dumpster fire that was, folks. I really wish somebody or some amateur would go back and actually redo that cartoon. But, it's kind of classic in its own. It's a cult classic episode of the Transformers because of how bad it is. They resurrected Brawn, I believe, Gears in that episode, or Huffer, or somebody they resurrected in that episode. The scaling was off. People, Transformers would appear and then disappear. Autobots are flying and then they're not flying. They used, they just did all sorts of crap. I mean, it was a disaster. But at the end of the day, it's a cartoon. It's a kid's series. Us adults appreciate it because, we need escapism. People who are fans of baseball and football and hockey and soccer and all that kind of stuff. People collect stamps and coins and obviously Transformers toys. So to me, what I think about this ongoing debate is that Cyclonus can either be Skywarp or Bombshell. To me, it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, when I feel down or I'm in the middle of going through like some sort of, crisis in my personal life, or I need to pay bills, or I'm just stressed out, I'll sit here at my kitchen counter making videos for all of you because I like doing it and giving my hot takes. Some people will agree, some people don't. That's fine. That's what makes America beautiful. We have the right to disagree with each other. But what it all boils down to is use your imaginations, folks. Remember what that used to be when we were kids back in the 80s, depending on how old you are. There are no imaginations. Everything has to be perfect. That's why I made the video recently about good old Skywarp here. His shoulders are in purple. You know what I mean? It's such a minute thing to complain about that people just take this stuff way too seriously, folks. For me, I like the entertainment value. I like the escapism. I like to get away from reality for just a little bit. I don't want to be so immersed in politics anymore and what goes on with these wars and taxes and homelessness and disease and floods. The mind can only process so much. Take it from an old school guy like me who grew up with the Transformers and the Snorks and the Smurfs and, even watching my little sister, she was just old enough to get into like Strawberry Shortcake and, Care Bears and things like that, Barbie. Us guys grew up with Voltron, Galaxy High, Thundar the Barbarian, you name it, I watched it. Captain Command, what is that? Oh my God, is it Captain Commando and the Soldiers of the Future? I'm forgetting what the hell it's called. That TV series with the jets that you shoot at the TV set. I forgot what they call it. Correct me in the comments section. I forget, folks. But anyway, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and the list goes on. Thundercats, Bionic 6. It was all meant to jar your imagination. It is hero worship. Because what girl doesn't want to be a princess, and what guy doesn't want to be a superhero? What boy didn't want to have like his own army and cool weapons and transform into things, or be He-Man and raise your sword up in the air, and now all of a sudden you're a superhero? What girl didn't want to be a princess and be like She-Ra, for example? That's what it's all about, folks. That's why I really don't care about this debate, to be honest with you. In my opinion, Cyclonus could be either or. It's a cartoon. These are toys. I'm a grown man. These to me are a lot of fun. Takes me away from reality for a little bit. And then once I'm done living in this little fantasy world, I put them back up on the shelf, and then I go back into adulthood again. Point being is that you can't take this stuff so seriously, folks. It's really a controversy, as Rich Evans and Red Letter Media has coined. It's a controversy. I choose either or to be Cyclonus. I mean, obviously, again, logically, when you think about it, in front of the camera, Bombshell was right front and center while Skywarp was way back here. Theoretically, he should be Bombshell, yes, just by appearance alone. But in my opinion, Skywarp, like Starscream and Thundercracker, served Megatron for millennia. And to me, I think Unicron would have chosen Skywarp over Bombshell simply because Skywarp served with Megatron before he was transitioned over into Galvatron, because he was there literally from the beginning. But that's just my opinion. And that's where it gets lost. This is like the chicken and the egg. This is a paradox. They're both right and they're both wrong. Deal with it. That's my opinion. They're just toys. It's a cartoon. I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Take care, everybody.